I'm Shirley Day with Civility Partners, and I'm actually coming to you from Redondo Beach, California. And I'm curious to see if any of you know where that is. So if you wouldn't mind typing in the chat, go ahead and type in yes or take a guess. That'd be great. Any guesses on Redondo Beach? Okay, I just want to make sure that everyone's chat is actually working. Can you go ahead and type in yes in the chat box, please, and send that to me?
Shirley, you're going to have to check the questions tab.
Okay. Oh, excellent. Thank you. All right. Yes, I am seeing this test. Thank you very much. Okay. Well, if any of you guessed that I'm in Los Angeles area, you're completely right. I'm in one of the beach areas of Los Angeles, and I understand that the World EAP conference will be held in LA in October, so that's pretty cool. And what I'd like to know is where you're coming from. So if you wouldn't mind, again, typing in chat or in the question area where you're coming from, I'd like to know where the audience is. Illinois, okay, hi, Illinois test. Maryland, nice. Okay, South Dakota, and India, welcome. All right, it looks like we have people from all over the place. That's excellent. What I'd like to do now is introduce to you two other people. I think you've heard Rebecca's voice. Rebecca Del Soco is the webinar administrator. So if you run into any issues during this webinar, she's the person to reach out to during the session. The other person that I'd like to introduce you to is actually the man who was involved in making this webinar happen, and that's Mike Jacquart. I just want to make sure that he's able to call in. If not, I'm happy to give his bio. Mike? Okay. Well, Mike is actually a journalism person from University of Wisconsin, Oshkosh. He's had 30 years of experience in writing, reporting, editing, and publishing. He's edited the Employee Assistance Report monthly newsletter, and he's been doing that since 2004. He also edits the Journal of Employee Assistance magazine. He writes a blog, he's a frequent LinkedIn contributor, and a workshop presenter. So hopefully Mike will be able to jump in and join us later on. So wherever you are, Mike, hello. I'd like to pose a question to everyone out there so that I am on the right track as far as what you do for a living as an EAP practitioner or an employee assistance professional. And my understanding is that you promote employee health and well-being. Am I on the right track? Go ahead and respond to that, please. Yep, okay. So Bobby, what do you do when you say not me? Can you be a bit more specific? Okay. Ah, you're retired. Well, thank you for joining us anyway. And it looks like that EAP practitioners wear many hats. So I'm glad that you're on board with this webinar. Okay. All right, a little background about me. I have been a training professional for about 15 years as an e-learning and classroom instructional designer and developer, consultant, and presenter. I've actually known Catherine for a little bit longer than that, about 16 years. And what I'm hoping for you today is to walk away with a definition on what workplace bullying is. And we're going to take a look at workplace bullying from the standpoint of a target. I'm also going to offer you some tools, some action plans on how to deal with a bullying situation on an individual level as well as an organizational level. So right now, I'm actually going to pose a question for you. What do you think bullying is? What does that look like in your head? Or what you've witnessed it before? Ah, you've been dealing with it, okay, great. In school system, all right, Bobby. All right. Nice. Okay, thank you for your responses. So basically, I'm going to focus on the 4 major factors that are central to the definition of bullying. So the first one is bullying is repeated. We're not talking about a one-time thing when someone was uncivil and they had a bad day but everyone got over it. That's actually called conflict, and I'll go into that in a little bit more. Bullying is pervasive, it's ongoing, and it's repeated behavior. It happens about once a week, and it goes on for a period of about 6 months, 5 years, what have you. So just know that bullying is repeated. Bullying causes harm. It causes physical and psychological harm. It's a power imbalance. So what happens is a bully target experiences anxiety, depression, they're afraid to work, they're angry, they feel helpless, and it's no secret that physical damage is caused by stress. Ulcers, stomach aches, headaches, heartaches. Can anyone resonate with any of this? Yeah. And research actually shows these days that targets even experience post-traumatic stress disorder, which is PTSD. Same thing a soldier gets from war. Now look at the third bullet. It says causes harm to targets and witnesses. Witnesses also experience these symptoms because when you see somebody who's getting bullied, you feel that stress. You take it home with you, you sense that aggression. And because of this, workplace bullying is a social phenomenon. And lastly, bullying is very costly. It's costly for the individual, it's costly for the organization. And I'm going to show you some specifics a little bit later. Okay. So I'm going to break down bullying into 3 different types of behaviors. And the first one is, I love this picture, is aggressive communication. And this is the behavior you can see. Nasty emails, yelling at someone, getting in someone's face, or pointing your finger at them. So this is something you can see. The second bucket is humiliation. And this is sending a nasty email and copying other people who don't need to see the email, pointing somebody out in front of everybody, maybe ignoring them or socially isolating somebody. So let me share with you a little story about my experience in humiliation. I worked for a company, and every Monday morning, the CEO would conduct what, quote unquote, a sales update. And basically, there would be about 10 or 12 of us sitting in a room. Each one of us would take turns giving him an update on what we did that week. Well, as we told our story, he would berate us. He would lash out at us and humiliate us. Like there was nothing we can say. Like one month I had hit the highest quota and I was so proud. And you know what he said to me? He said, "Shirley, you could have done a heck of a lot better." There was nothing we could have done right. So it was very humiliating. He was clearly a bully at that point. The third bucket is manipulation. And this is the favorite of bullies because you know why? It's actually the hardest to see. And I will share with you a story that is a case that Civilian Partners had taken on. This woman had worked for a community college for about, 20 years. And over those 20 years, she had about 5 managers. And with those 5 managers, she was given good performance. She was actually a pretty good worker. The 6th manager, on the other hand, comes on board and she's a bully. She sends this woman nasty emails, complains about her to other people. And when this woman was to receive her evaluation, do you know what her manager wrote on it? She wrote one word: loser. Okay. So those are the 3 factors of bullying: aggressive communication, humiliation, and manipulation. Okay, now let's get into more detail. Instability is at the bottom of the spectrum of bad behavior. And If left unattended, it can turn into bullying. So let's talk about the subset of bullying. First, using, I'm not sure if chat's working, but I guess we'll work with questions. Can you tell me, if anyone, what the difference is between bullying and discrimination and harassment? And I'm going to mention discrimination and harassment as one unit. What is the difference between those? And
Hey there, Shirley. We're not picking up your mic.
okay, how about now?
Okay, there you go.
Thank you. So any guesses on the difference between bullying and discrimination and harassment? Okay. All right, so here it is. The only difference is that the law says if it's aimed at a protected class, the behaviors are illegal, and that falls under discrimination and harassment. If equal opportunity harassment exists, which is bullying, then it's legal. So essentially, harassment and discrimination are a subset of workplace bullying. Now let's take a look at the other two, mobbing and hazing. And these two are really aimed at or consist of a group of people targeting one person. But the only difference between those two is hazing has an end date. So think of the stories you've heard on college campuses where they haze somebody, they're trying to indoctrinate somebody into the group. Okay, so once the group feels that that person, that new person they're trying to bring in, has demonstrated their worth, it's over. Okay, and mobbing, the group may continue with the behavior until the new hire or somebody quits, okay? And one thing we want to avoid is violence. And we'll talk about that. So clearly bullying is a very social situation. And what I'd like to do now is take a look at the players. First, I'd like to ask you, please type in what you think makes someone a bully. What characteristics do they have? Okay, go ahead and type it in questions or in chat if that's working. May not be. What makes a bully a bully? Okay. So if you're thinking that a bully is someone who is afraid of being seen as incompetent, you're right. They lack social and emotional intelligence. And now let's talk about the target. We don't know much about the target, but we do know that they're often high performers. And so what happens is it can cause the bully to feel threatened. And so bullies lash out when that uber competence is threatened. And we also know that targets are not standing out for themselves. So there's a power imbalance, which leads us into the organizational members, which also have a role. And they have a role by not speaking up, okay?
Hey,
Witnesses,
Shirley. I don't mean
yes.
to interrupt, but your control panel's kind of hanging over the presentation. I don't know if you can move it over a little bit to the right so people can see
There
it.
we go. Okay.
There we
Sorry
go.
about that. Thank you. Okay. All right. And finally, the organization itself is a real issue. The organization allows the workplace bullying to happen. And the factors such as organizations with a lot of intelligent people, long-time workers, bureaucratic situations, lots of change, high competition, all of these lead for bullying, can lead to bullying, okay? So again, it's a social issue. Everyone is involved in it if nothing is done about it. Let's take a look at the target's world. It's pretty grim. A target may feel that the bully is a psychopath, that the organization doesn't care, that their colleagues and coworkers don't care that they're being bullied, that their friends and family don't understand the situation. And when a target Googles workplace bullying, they find that the internet is full of people with stories of being fired as a result of not doing their job because they were bullied, and they're left destitute. And they feel completely helpless. Okay. And when they speak to HR, they're often met with this type of reaction. HR doesn't hear the complaint, or they don't take it seriously. HR doesn't see the issue, or HR doesn't think it's that bad, and they're not willing to speak up against the bully. Also, think of it as maybe HR might talk to leaders about the bully, but leaders don't want to talk about it either because the bully is a high performer. So ask yourself, does any of these situations resonate with you? And what do you need to do to validate the bullying is going on? Okay. Here is part of a seven-page brown bagger handout that actually Catherine has sent over to Mike, and it was back in 2009. So if you'd like a copy of this, and when Mike comes back on the line, I'll share with you his email address, Mike@Jackwart. And this is what you see here. This questionnaire is one of 7-page long handout, and it includes a 16-page questionnaire that helps determine if the company that you're working with fosters a culture of workplace bullying. Okay, and also included in this brown bagger handout are tools to end workplace bullying and other useful information you can take with you when you're working with your client company. Okay, and now what I'd like to do is share with you some of these tools. Right. The first thing is you want to have a good conversation with your target when they approach you, and you want to try to counsel them on what on the conversation they should have with the person they feel they're being bullied from. And okay, what I'm going to share with you are just a few tips that's included in Catherine's book called Back Off, Your Kick-Ass Guide to Ending Bullying at Work. You may have seen it already. If not, pick up a copy. It's excellent. She has 105 practical tools in there, and I'm only sharing, just a tiny bit of that with you. Okay, so let's take a look at this conversation that a target should have with a bully. First thing is validate. What does that mean? That means that the target should express empathy towards the bully. They need to show that they know where the bully's coming from. Number 2, the target should describe the problem and consequence of that bully's behavior. And the 3rd, the target should offer solutions. Okay, let me show you what that conversation could look like. All right, so I'm a target and I am talking to my bully. I know these reports are frustrating. So right there, I'm already expressing my empathy towards the bully. I know this is important to that person. But when you talk to me with a harsh tone of voice, it's hard for me to take in your suggestions. I'm pointing out the problem, okay? I don't want that person talking to me that way. In the future, please take the time to talk me through so I can learn from you. Here's the solution. Just know as an EAP practitioner that when your target is approaching you, what they really want to do is feel safety. And they want to not deal with the stress or the PTSD or any of the symptoms that they may experience as a result of being bullied. And we want to avoid any possible physical damage. Okay, just remember, if a target indicates, if they say, I'm afraid, they could be a target of workplace violence. And that's all it takes, is for a target to say, I'm afraid. As an EAP professional or practitioner, you might also advise your target to watch your body language. These are 3 body languages that demonstrate non-confidence. So they want to demonstrate a more confident body language, not closed in. And I don't know if you're a fan of TEDx or TED Talks. I am. There is a great TED Talk by Amy Cuddy, that's Amy, C-U-D-D-Y, that I highly recommend, where she addresses body language. So as I'm talking right now, I hope that you're, standing up straight and pulling your shoulders back. So that's very important for the target to know that body language can be read by that bully, and we don't want that to happen. Okay, as an EAP practitioner, what you'll want to do now is collect your data and forward your findings to HR. Include only facts, leave the emotions out of it. Who is being bullied? Who is that target? Who is the bully? What is happening? Where is it happening? When is it happening? Okay, and also as you have all of your documentation, you want to share with HR what you want to happen, okay? Discuss any attempts that the target has made in trying to resolve the situation. I was just talking about that conversation. Maybe you can point that out. My target approached the bully by saying this, and by pointing out, I don't like this behavior, and by suggesting, this is what I want to happen. I want this behavior to stop. Okay. And of course, with HR, you want to point out this harassment or violence if it makes sense. Okay. So I'm hoping you feel at this point that you can take part in this. Unfortunately, I'm going to share with you some sad statistics. According to Career Builder, although this has happened where someone has brought up a situation with HR, unfortunately, 62% of employers did nothing. And according to Workplace Bullying Institute, 44% of employers did nothing, and 18% made the situation worse. So your participation in helping a target is crucial in making a difference in their life. And I'd like to see these numbers go down, and I hope you do too. All right, we've talked about a couple of tools to help a target on an individual basis. Now let's talk about helping your client as an organization. Okay, and the first thing is coaching. Your employer should understand that they can coach bullying behavior. And it's just like a team sport or any other type of performance and behavioral situation. If there's a problem, you can discipline them. I mean, you can discipline a bad player on a team. You discipline people on your team now that is not performing up to par. And one way to help with this is to conduct a 360-degree review, because it's really good for bullies to see how they're perceived. And in Catherine's experience, it makes huge difference in the success of coaching behaviors. The 360-degree review data is a powerful tool that you can bring to the table. Okay. Now, you are probably very familiar with conflict management training, okay? In actuality, we don't recommend that, and I'll tell you why. Conflict is really defined, or the way we see it, it happens when two people disagree, but both people have a voice. So when you look at bullying, when it happens, there's a perceived power imbalance that builds up. Okay, what happens is a target doesn't stand up for him or herself for whatever reason, and so a bully pushes that target, and the target says nothing. The bully pushes again, and bully pushes more and more frequently and with more and more aggression. So eventually, the bully realizes he has power over the target, and the target realizes the bully has power over him. So there's a perceived power imbalance, which is more similar to domestic violence than conflict. So when you're dealing with bullying situation, think of it as dealing with it along the lines of domestic violence. And so using conflict management may not work. It's like, I hate to say it, asking an abused person to work it out with the abuser. Okay, the same thing goes for bullying. I think I've gone a little too far. Okay. All right. The organization needs to take a proactive approach, and they really need to focus on changing the culture, which I'm going to focus on now. And the first step in doing that is the leadership of that company you're working with has to be on board with the change. The leadership has to be on board. Now, you may be asking yourself, how do I convince the leader that there's even something going on? So I'm going to share with you a story with a Civility Partners client. Okay, and it's about a client that is a manufacturing plant. And the CEO did not want to believe that there was any bullying going on in that organization. So Civility Partners had a small budget to do an audit, and this survey focused on relationships and communication throughout the organization. And we were able to prove that the CEO indeed had a bullying situation that needed to be addressed. He was also very surprised to learn that half of his organization, over half actually, had looked for another job at least once in the last year. So what we did was called a prevalence audit. And a prevalence audit is, again, a validation showing that there's something going on, that something needs to be addressed. And the prevalence audit is also mentioned in that brown bagger document that I mentioned earlier. And again, if you'd like a copy of it, we can email Mike for that. Okay. Thirsty there for a second. All right. Now let's talk about the cost of bullying. I shared with you the symptoms that a target can experience: anxiety, stress, PTSD, headaches, ulcers, all of that stuff. Yes, none of that is probably quantifiable. Okay, so you can't share with your leaders that this is happening without showing some data that it's actually affecting the bottom line. So what you want to do is try to quantify what happens. Let's say when there's a workers' comp claim that's filed because of those symptoms that I named. Okay, so you can quantify that. Or how about a target coming into work and saying, oh, this is happening to me, or they're getting sick and they're not coming in, or they're actually working overtime because the bully is making them do extra work. Okay, so what you do is, okay, let's take a target, for instance, and you take that person's salary and you break it up into an hourly wage. You multiply that hourly wage by the number of hours you spend counseling this target, dealing with the bully, dealing with all the paperwork, okay? Those are quantifiable costs. Again, you can also quantify the overtime that happens, let's say when there's an unreasonable workload assigned by the bully. The Canadian Safety Council found that if you're actually bullied at work, you spend more than half your day, about 52%, talking about it. Imagine that. So you can think about how many wasted hours that is for the employees and all the people that they're talking to. That's quantifiable. Now, if you'd like a copy of this template to help quantify those situations, all you have to do is email Catherine at civilitypartners.com. Okay, so as you can see, it's costly for everyone involved. So what we like to focus on is a healthy workplace policy. Now, how many of you have that in place? A healthy workplace policy. Okay. If you don't, you can develop one. First thing to do is to set some ground rules. Try telling your employees what you're looking for. What are the acceptable behaviors for your organization? And you can even ask the employees to help you with that. I mean, what type of values make them happy to come to work? I mean, what are they excited about in regard to your company? And then think of the unacceptable behaviors, okay? And you may actually already have a lot of this stuff in your core values. So if, let's say, you have a core value that values good communication, teamwork, innovation, what have you, those are the right behaviors that make a difference, okay? Include that in your respectful workplace corporate policy. Those behaviors will define the acceptable and healthy workplace behaviors. If you don't have a policy in place, go ahead and email Catherine and she'll be happy to send you a template so you can get one started. Okay. What you can also share with your client companies is that they should probably provide some training in regards to workplace bullying. They can conduct that. But what's actually even more helpful, besides talking about what workplace bullying is, what to watch out for, etc., is we highly recommend topics that speak to a respectful corporate culture. Topics such as conflict resolution, communication skills, stress management, customer service, leadership, optimism, resilience, respect, and civility, diversity. And I don't know about you, but I can think of a lot more. So I'll give you a minute to take a look at this list, if you'd like to write it down, and think of other topics that you can recommend to your client companies in regards to a respectful corporate culture or creating one. Okay, now with each of these topics, what you want to do is attach learning objectives so that you know what or how to reward people who are on par with what's expected of them in regards to the behavior you expect, and to measure that performance. Because again, if someone doesn't measure up to that performance that is important to your organization, that you have written down, that maybe the employees have had a chance to contribute to, then you have grounds for disciplinary action, because now they're not in alignment with the culture that you're seeking or that you want. Okay? Now, when it comes to training for managers, there's a lot more. So in addition to those other topics, managers should also think of topics in setting expectations, in managing bullies, coaching behavior and performance, and creating positive workplace. And as with the other trainings, you also want to attach learning objectives to rewards and measure performance as well. And all of this will help in creating that corporate culture that is acceptable, okay? And so I can't emphasize enough that performance management comes into play. Once you've set those standards, once the companies realize that employees have a goal or different goals that they need to be in alignment with, then you can set the measurements for performance, okay? As I mentioned before, you can measure them against the core values you already have in place right now. And it would come as no surprise then that bullying violates communication, teamwork, and other core values that you already have in place even today in evaluation forms. Maybe not you, but your company client, okay? Very important. Managers must be trained in setting these expectations and holding people accountable, because it's all a performance issue at this point. All right. Well, actually, that's pretty much it on corporate bullying. I am open, if we can do this, to take any questions or any comments. Or if Mike, are you on board yet?
I'm trying to get him on board, but he's having some technical issues right now, but we're going to see if we can get him in.
Okay, all right. I'm looking through the questions. Let's see if I can get this to work. Rebecca, is there any way we can open up the audio so people can call in? All right. Let's see if I can do that. I'm not sure. All right. Well, I'm not sure if we'll be able to get Mike in, but feel free to send me any questions, or Catherine at civilitypartners.com. If you'd like a copy of this, let me see if I can pull up Mike's email address for you so you can get a copy of that brown bagger document. That'd be great. And I apologize that he wasn't able to come on board. He was actually on earlier. So let's see.
Unmuted.
Okay, I actually just did get an email from him. He says he just wants to apologize for any tech problems at his end. We did try to get him on, but he did give me his phone number and email, so I will post that in the questions part for you guys, so that way if you have any questions or anything that you need to contact him with, then you will have that information. So I'm going to type it in a questions box for you guys right now.
Okay, great. And I actually, let's see, the top refuses, thank you, Bobby, for this feedback, to address workplace bullying, then the victim is left nothing else but to leave. And again, I recommend maybe taking a look at that prevalence audit questionnaire that is in the blogger. That might help. If not, again, reach out to Catherine. Let's see, someone has read the book, read a lot about bullying in the last 7 years, and took on a temp job recently with a very well-known nonprofit organization. Started bullying. Yeah, the surprising thing about bullying is it comes from different levels. There's bullying up, bullying down. It really doesn't come from any particular place. And unfortunately, some of those people are not aware of their own actions. And that's why it's really important to create an environment where that's behavior is not allowed, of not being able to work with people, not dealing with situations in a civil matter, and that's what we focus on is a civil matter. We're not talking about people loving each other, giving each other's flowers every day. We like to focus on just being civil so that people can come to work comfortably and do their best professionally. So, okay, well, I think with that, I'm going to end it. Thank you very much for your participation. And I know Rebecca has recorded this, so we'll be sending that out to everyone. So have a good day. Thank you.